Did you know rent in Bulgaria is on average 80% lower than the United States? And you could rent a decent apartment in Indonesia for $300 a month. The best part about the countries on this list is they're desirable. People actually want to live there, and they're affordable. Today we look at countries where you could live like a king on under $1,000 a month. Goat it, get it, good. Let's take a look. Number 10, Cambodia. Living in Cambodia as an American can be a wild adventure. The first thing that hits you is the incredible warmth of the weather and the Cambodian people. They'll welcome you with open arms and always have a smile on their face. The food here is really good. A lot of people say great things about it. I like the fried rice, but the amok, not my thing. But if you're a diehard fan of amok and fried rice, Cambodia is for you. The pace of life in Cambodia is a little more laid back than most Americans are used to. Sort of like Jamaicans, without the dreadlocks. The country is beautiful. They have amazing ancient temples. Now, the downside of living here is it does get too warm. I said it's warm most of the year, but then it gets scorching hot during the dry season. Here's the best part about living in Cambodia. It's extra cheap. The average person can live comfortably in Cambodia on $587 a month, not counting rent. The cost of living in Cambodia on average is about 47.8% lower than it is in the US. Rent in Cambodia on average is about 77% lower than the national average. But if you want to live in one of the cities like downtown where everything's busy and it's a little more expensive, it's going to set you back for a one bedroom about $420 American a month. That's it. Number 9, Bulgaria. Living in Bulgaria as an American can be a little bit different. First of all, the country's got some seriously breathtaking scenery, from the majestic Rila Mountains to its charming old towns that they have scattered throughout this country. Their biggest city is Sofia, which is a beautiful city with really good transportation. One of the best things about Bulgaria is they're not all into fish. I'm not a fish guy, and a lot of the places on this list are, just that's one of their main staples of their diet is fish. I like the Eastern Bloc countries because they don't get into it that much. If you ever do go to Bulgaria, have a banita. It's like this pastry that's filled with cheese and eggs, and it's really interesting. They make it about the size of a small pizza and you chop it up. Definitely really big during the holidays for the Bulgarian people. I did a video a few years back and I brought up Bulgaria. One of the people left a comment that he's from Romania, and he was kind of saying if you move to Bulgaria or Romania, make sure you understand a little of both of the languages. It was just his experience, and I looked it up and I found things that kind of said it was this way, but fewer Bulgarians and Romanians know English than a lot of the other countries in that area. So that could be a problem. What's not a problem is the cost of living. The average person can live comfortably in Bulgaria on $600 a month, not counting rent. The cost of living in Bulgaria is 48% lower than the United States, and the average rent at the city center of one of their major cities is about $410 a month. Number 8, Guatemala. Americans living in Guatemala is becoming more and more of a thing every single day. The first thing you'll notice is the warm and friendly locals that are always willing to strike up a conversation, especially if you have money. This country isn't doing too good economically, so a gringo with a wallet is like a celebrity. And in case you don't know, Guatemala is really close to Mexico, and the food is very similar. There's differences, but it's very similar. They have a very relaxed lifestyle here too. Great beaches. It's in Central America, so it's going to be hot. There's going to be a lot of insects. But if you live in a beach community or a beach city, it's a little bit less. Best of all, it is cheap. A single person could live comfortably in Guatemala for about $602 a month. The cost of living here is 49.6% lower than the United States. Rental prices in Guatemala are about 72.9% lower than you'd find in the United States. A one bedroom in city center is about $480 a month. That's a little bit more than some of the other ones on this list, but their cost of living is really low, so it kind of balances out. Number 7, Thailand. Living in Thailand as an American can be pretty sweet. It's been a popular place for Westerners for decades who are trying to get away from a higher cost of living and get in on a good time, because Thailand is a good time. The warm weather can also be kind of a bummer to a lot of people, especially if you don't like heat and humidity. It can be rough. And it's always that way. You could forget your winter clothes back in Wisconsin and no galoshes will be needed here. The normal evening attire is flip-flops, shorts, a t-shirt, and a drink in your hand. A single person can live comfortably in Thailand on $568 American. That's per month. The cost of living in Thailand on average is about 50.6% lower than the United States. Rent is about 72.5% lower than the United States. Let's say you want to rent a place in city center in one of the big cities there. It's going to run you around $492. Number 6, the Philippines. The Philippines, like Thailand, have been very popular for quite some time, especially Navy dudes from the US. They've been retiring there for decades. Most of the time it's because they were stationed there, they got to know a young lady and maybe started a family with her. They come back to the US for a while, then when they retire, they realize it's better in the Philippines for the money they get from the government for retirement. There's a ton of US Navy and Marines living in the Philippines. But the Philippines isn't just limited to prior military. Everyone retires there that likes warm weather, the ocean, and cheap seafood and real estate. A single person could live comfortably in the Philippines on $562 a month, not counting rent. Cost of living in the Philippines on average is about 53.6% lower than the United States. Rent in the Philippines on average about 81.9% lower than the United States, and a one bedroom in the center of one of the major cities will go for about $328 a month. Number 5, Vietnam. Vietnam has changed so much since the 1970s. Major companies like Coca-Cola, Nike, Adidas do a lot of their manufacturing in that country. And a lot of people realize how nice of a country it is when they go to work for one of these countries. Then when they retire, they return. Vietnam has an extremely low cost of living. Even their major cities like Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, they have a really low cost of living. You'll probably be surprised that it's actually, you're living in a big city, modern city, and it's dirt cheap. The average person can live comfortably in Vietnam for $476 a month, not counting rent again. The cost of living in Vietnam on average is about 57.6% lower than the national average. Rent in Vietnam on average is about 78.7% lower than the US, and a one bedroom in city center is only $357. That's city center of like Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh City. Number 4, Indonesia. It's warm, it's tropical, and you can forget about shoveling snow. That's how it is in Indonesia. I don't think they've ever got snow. Maybe up in their mountains they have. I'm sure they have, actually. I did look it up. They only have one place that gets snow, and it's high up on a mountain in Indonesia. Interesting. But there's no cities up there, so what I said still stands. You won't have to worry about shoveling snow. Now, you won't get snow, but the rainy season can get seriously wet. I live in a place that rains a lot, Oregon, but most of the time we're just getting light drizzle like every day for like 3 months, and then it'll rain hard for a week, then light drizzle every day for another month, then hard rain. You know, that's how it is here. They get rain that actually takes down tarps, and it's insane rain out there. Indonesia has a lot of culture and a lot of things to see. It is a beautiful country with beautiful people. And then I heard something about an influencer. I guess, it's a Muslim country. Indonesia is very Muslim. And this influencer from Indonesia was in another country and she ate a pork rind. Well, they decided that was enough to jail her for 2 years. I thought that was kind of messed up, but that's their religion. The average person can live comfortably in Indonesia for $452 a month. The cost of living in Indonesia on average is about 61.2% lower than the US average. Rent in Indonesia is about 81.6% lower than the United States. A one bedroom in the middle of one of the cities will run you about $300. Number 3, Bolivia. Back down to South America we go, and the fine country of Bolivia that nobody ever knows anything about. It's strange. Of all the countries in South America, this always seems to be the one that nobody knows anything about. They're like flying under the radar. If you don't know, Bolivia is a landlocked country in South America. It's surrounded by Brazil, Peru, Chile, Paraguay, Argentina, and yeah, I think that's it. Yep, that is it. Most of the Americans that do move there will end up in La Paz, which is their capital and their largest city. Without looking, do you know the only 2 landlocked countries in South America? What they are? Give you a second. Bolivia is one, yes, and Paraguay. Side note, sometimes I just like to drop pins, on the Google map and see what's going on in a place. And while I was looking at Bolivia, I looked in Lima, Peru for some reason, and I saw this. I don't know what's going on here. I wish someone could explain it to me. That looks like a dude in a t-shirt he's using as a dress while he talks to Spider-Man, and I don't know what's going on with the kid with the red hair. All right, back to Bolivia. Bolivia has a lot of things going for it. The weather's decent. The people are decent. They got little small towns and stuff that are nice places to live. Their cities, they're okay, but it's definitely cheap. A single person can live comfortably in Bolivia for $481 a month. The cost of living in Bolivia on average is about 61.4% lower than the United States. Rent in Bolivia is 84.4% lower, meaning rent can be $290 a month in the middle of a city. Number 2, Nepal. I honestly think this is the first time we've talked about Nepal on this channel. One of my son's good friends is from Nepal. Talk to him all the time. Very nice kid. If you don't know where Nepal is, it is sandwiched between China and India, and their capital city is the famous Kathmandu. Sounds like a mythical city, like it comes out of a story, if you don't know it's actually a place, that place is fake. No, it's real. It's been there for quite some time. Nepal offers a simple and affordable lifestyle. It's great for those who prefer a more modest type of living. Just existing, reading books, going for hikes, having some tea in the morning. It's a beautiful country with very little urbanization. If you want to live in Nepal, the average person can live on $348 a month, not counting rent. Cost of living in Nepal is about 65.7% lower than it is in the US. Rent, on average, about 92% lower. If you want to live in the middle of, let's say, Kathmandu, 1-bedroom apartment, it's going to set you back 121 American dollars a month. That is dirt cheap. All right, before we get to number 1, if you have not already subscribed to this channel, I'd appreciate it if you would. And don't forget to give the video a like and maybe even leave us a comment. Which one of these countries would you move to? I'd love to know. Let me know in the comment section. All right, on to number 1. And number 1. India. Yes, India's number 1. I didn't think this was going to happen. I thought some other country, smaller, that was, a little more out of the way would be cheaper. But India is the cheapest one on this list. Like I said at the beginning, sure, you can go to places like Afghanistan or, the skeleton coast of Africa and find a cheaper way of life, but these are the ones people would actually move to. And India, believe it or not, even though it's got a ton of people, is very appealing to foreigners. India provides affordable living with cheap food, housing, and transportation. A single person can live on $346 a month in India. That means the average cost of living in India is 69.9% lower than it is in the US. Rent in India is dirt cheap, not as cheap as Nepal, but it's pretty cheap. It's 86.6% lower than it is in the United States. A 1-bedroom in one of its major cities will run you about $222. That being said, in my opinion, I wouldn't move to one of the major cities of India. I think they really shine in the smaller cities. Stay out of Mumbai, New Delhi, Karachi. Stay out of those places and you'll be fine. Stay in the smaller cities in India and stop typing, yes, I know Karachi's in Pakistan. Who is leaving the message? Who is giving me the comment? Tell me to buy a map. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Be nice to each other.